You called it, Tim. You called it. Even my mum phoned up and she said, Tim, you were right about the Royal Air Force and what they were doing with diversity. We'll go straight into the article and then we're going to come out the article very quickly because I want to talk to you about something that is really important to me and I know that you'll understand it from a place of heart. RAF use Indian instructors amid pilot shortage. Defence chiefs hope move will improve relations between British and Indian forces. Let's just look at the article briefly and then, as I said, we're just going to jump into something else I think you're going to find quite interesting. So the RAF will use instructors from the Indian Air Force to train its next generation of pilots. Notice what it says there. It doesn't say what kind of pilots it's going to train, whether it's going to be helicopter pilots, multi-engine pilots like your airliners and your refuelers, your transport aircraft, or fast jet pilots. It does not say that. The unprecedented move announced by the Prime Minister of India is part of a defence deal to bring Britain and India closer. India, and I was on TV in India recently, a couple of months ago, they buy equipment from all across the world. It doesn't seem to matter. Their allegiances are a little bit fickle, shall we say. So it does then go on to say, the RAF has faced a pilot shortage since a diversity hiring scheme backfired, with documents earlier this year revealing it needed a high number of pilots in training. Let's go back to some interesting stuff. Now, a lot of people have written to me and said, Tim, you've called us a long time ago, and I would just want to say something to you real quick. It gives me zero pleasure to be right. Zero pleasure. I want to do something and move on from it. I want to solve the diversity issue within the Royal Air Force and move on for it. I don't want to keep hitting the Royal Marines down at Lympstone for lowering their standards, no matter what they say. We know that's the truth. I don't want to get into the Army. I don't want to get into the Navy. All that kind of stuff, guys. I have no interest in this. And by the way, if you are going to attack the establishment like I did back in about 2021, there will be repercussions. There will be financial and other aspects that I can't go into on here. But you will not end up in a good place. Am I saying don't go after things that you think are wrong? No, I'm not saying that at all, but just go with an open mind, guys, open view, and know that they're going to come for you. They will come for you and it will be brutal. That said, fuck them, we're English. This is what we do, right? Applicants seeking to join RAF described as useless white male pilots in a bid to hit impossible diversity targets. Now, I was talking about this with Deborah Haynes back in 2023. She put the stories out. And if you doubt my consistency on this, let's go to my YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm looking at motorcycles, I'm looking at girls, I'm looking at all the good stuff, guys, because I'm just a man. In the top then, fast jet performance diversity. Let's type that in and let's spin that dial. And now I'm a little bit smaller. We can see at the very top then, I'm talking about diversity the whole time. Whether it comes down Navy boss, questions diversity, British military diversity and inclusion, no white men. That was 3 years ago, by the way. And incidentally, all those 4 women there that you can see in that picture, they were 4 women put in charge of 4 naval training establishments in the Royal Navy, all captains. And the probability of that happening was 0.0000, I think there were 5 zeros, 8%, which meant there was no possibility at all. And the Navy was trying to tell us it was just by chance. We know that's not true. The truth about Royal Marines training, standards have fallen. That was last week. Men, red arrows, sexual abuse. I've gone into diversity down here like you read about. Send the woke. I mean, it's ridiculous. For fast jet performance, DEI, and you are going to find a lot of material that I've done on the military about why putting diversity into a meritocratic hierarchical institution is an exceptionally bad thing to do, and it will have repercussions. And I said this, there will be repercussions, and this is what we're seeing right now. We're back into the article because I'm in the article. Ed Stringer's also in the article. He's a very senior man in the military, good dude actually. I've got a lot of time for the boy. Now listen, here's the thing about him, all right? He's got his world that he has to occupy. When he talks about diversity, he does it at a level I don't talk about it at. I talk about diversity with the people of the UK, the people of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and we talk about it in a way that we understand because it affects us a lot more than, say, it affects Ed. He's not a bad guy. Now, he said here, this is unprecedented. The devil will be in the details. And he's all kind of going a bit wishy-washy, isn't he, about Indian pilots coming across and training. He's not going to say why it is. He's not going to tell you the real reasons. And of course, having trained these guys for a long time, and I did train Indian students on the Hawk T1, going back now, 2007, 2010 it must have been. I'm going to give you the real reasons why this is probably happening. Now, it says here, Tim Davies, a former RAF fighter pilot, instructor, an exceptionally good looking bloke, by the way, said the Indians would be an asset, and I mean that they are. As I said, I trained them. They're good people. They operate very similar to us. However, their equipment is a lot older and they've had a lot of fatalities as well. In fact, some of the students I trained were killed on MiG-21s and Jaguars. He added, this is just a stopgap to make up for the shortfall and loss of talent that the RAF has hemorrhaged over the last few years. Also, I was a little bit misquoted here. It says it's going to be 18 months before you see any of these instructors coming across. Now, that's not exactly what I said. A quick advert for Ground News, who sponsor this channel, luckily, because YouTube ain't giving me no money, fam. You know what I'm talking about. All the stories you'll find on the front page here that are current. However, you can search for stuff in the bar at the top. When you click on a story, then it will show you here, look, what's left-leaning, center, or right-leaning. It's a right-leaning story. Let's click on it. And then straight away, it gives you a summary at the top there. All the stories here, down there. You can even expand it for more articles if you want at the bottom. On the right here, it shows that there's 34 articles. There's 5 left, 14 right, and then there's 5 center. Below it then, the bias distribution shows that this is a right-leaning article. And you can see here, Fox News, Israel, all that kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? Here, factuality, expand that. You can see which ones are more factually correct than others, and so you can see who owns it as well. Where are your biases in this? Click on the article if you want. You'll go straight to that website then, and at the top you can see there's a bar that drops down as well, again showing where these biases are. You can then look at left-leaning articles and right-leaning articles and not get sidetracked by the mainstream media. 40% off, thank me later. What I said is it's going to be 18 months before you see any of these instructors being effective, basically being operational in the instructional role, and that is if they go on to military fast jets. If they go onto rotary or multi-engine, they may be a little bit more effective a little bit before. But here is why I have the problem. You're about to find out something about me that you didn't know. This is a device from Archie, and you can actually get it in, it's actually cheaply, in fact. It's a device for motorcycles. It's a dash thing. Now, I was in my garage earlier today, and this is quite important for you because I know you're interested in this. I have an issue in my brain where I don't have an off switch, and you'll find a lot of fast jet pilots are very similar to that. We do not have an off switch. We need to find out where the edge of that envelope is, and the only way of doing that is we need to go a little bit further until we die, and then we'll come back a bit. You can see the problems with doing that, yeah? You can see the problems. So I had this in the garage earlier. It was attached to a motorcycle, and I thought this is such a robust product that you can buy for 20% off, by the way, in my subscription from Archie. They sent it to me for free, but I just thought I'd throw it across the garage, see what happens. I did throw it across the garage 8 times. It wouldn't break. It wouldn't break. Except on the night time, it did break in the corner here. It broke in that corner. I've glued it back together again. I put a bit of tape there to hold it. It did break on the 9th time. The issue I have is I knew it was always going to break. Eventually, it was going to break, but I did it anyway. I wasn't intending to break it. Even when I threw it on the last time, I said to myself, Davies, you're probably going to break this. The same thing has happened in my relationships. The same thing has happened with motorcycling. I know I'm going to kill myself, so I'm doing all these educational courses. I'm doing Institute of Advanced Motoring, the Advanced Rider Program. I did an off-road course with BMW last week. Got track day next year. I did a bike safe course for the police. So I'm education to prevent me from leaving that throttle wide open into every single bend I come up against. It's something wrong with my brain. Alcoholism. I stopped drinking about 3 years ago now. I was killing myself. You don't understand it, guys. The whole left side of my body was in pain. I was dying. I was just drinking myself into oblivion. As we know, that alcohol is you doing yourself some damage by another route, isn't it? I can't say the word on YouTube. And obviously flying jets. That's the other one. The Air Force will recruit guys like me to fly jets because you need someone who is willing to get into that tornado and go and hit targets at night at 200 feet above the ground, doing 9 miles a minute, almost 600 miles an hour. That person has to know that they're probably not going to come back. It recruits us. So here's the problem I've got with Indian instructors coming across to teach guys like me. I'm not overly convinced they're as good as the Royal Air Force. And the reason I say this is the Royal Air Force instructors who I went through training were the same thing as me. And what they did is they knew if they let us alone to our own devices, we would fly ourselves into the ground. So they take you to where that level is and they bring you back a little bit. They keep you safe. They're like, we know you're going to try and do whatever you can to destroy yourself. We're going to bring you back a little bit. All right. And that's what this kind of analogy is about. We will destroy things and we need instructors to stop us destroying things, whether it's aircraft or people. And that's the problem with employing Indian instructors. So why don't we employ our own instructors, Tim? Well, because we brought diversity in and a load of them left because guys like me aren't going to tolerate that kind of nonsense. When it comes to putting myself in harm's way, I need to know that the person that I'm in an airplane with is there because they're good enough to be there. If they've been brought in because of their skin color or their gender, which I say is sex because I'm old school, they don't want to be there. I don't want them to be there. Chances are one of us is going to get the other one killed. And this is back from 2025. This is March 2025. The RAF is facing a pilot shortage after a diversity hiring scheme backfired. And we know it backfired. And I've covered it before. And you know I've covered it before. The Air Force is so short-staffed that candidates who were previously rejected are being urged to reapply. They asked me to come back at the age of 51. As well as older applicants who have experience in flying related roles. I said to the Air Force, what are the terms you want to come bringing back on them? What's going on there? And they said, well, the same terms that you left on, mate. I was like, yeah, but those terms aren't good enough, mate. That's why I left. So the Air Force wants us to come back in. It hasn't changed any of its ways. And really, we're just going back to do the same job we did before, just probably with worse terms now. And this was back in August 2022 then. RAF pauses job offers for white men to meet impossible diversity targets. And I commented this at the time. I said, this is going to end up in tears, guys. You cannot do this. What they were doing, they were literally just walking into Nando's, speaking to guys in there that had they were black or they were Asian, and just saying, do you want to be in the Air Force? These guys had no idea what they were getting themselves into, of course. The alleged move has prompted the head of recruitment, Elizabeth Nicole this was, for the Royal Air Force, herself a senior female officer, to resign. She resigned in protest. She said, this is not who we are. And good on her. She's exactly right. Well, of course, what happened then, a few months later, as I said it would, China reached in, and they reached into me as well, has reached in again to me recently as well. I've turned them down again. And it recruited dozens of British ex-military pilots in threat to UK interests. I could tell you a lot more about this, but I'm not able to. And the reason I can't is because it goes very, very deep into the fabric of the British government, and I'm not a guy that is going to kiss and tell in a public forum or any forum. That's not what I'm about. I'm a British patriot. You know who I am, guys. What I will say to you is this. The guys that went out there to train Chinese pilots were exactly the guys on a squadron that you knew would go out there to train Chinese pilots. There were two types of people, right? There were people that are going to do their time like me. They're going to go out and do something else, 100%. British patriots, I'm there for the people, red blood in my soul, born of the soil of my ancestors and heritage that has fallen before me in this ancient land. And there were people that are interested in money. I was the former. I'm interested in money, but I'm not ever going to sell my soul to China. People went out there, unfortunately, went out there about 5 years, got paid very well. And yeah, unfortunately, they taught the Chinese a lot of things. No one else that I've spoken to is overly happy with what happened. It is what it is. And I understand that some people needed to. Because you have to remember, guys, and I'll leave this here, that when you come out of the Air Force having flown these kind of jets and everything else, there's nothing else out here for you. No one needs fast jet pilots. So why are they bringing these Indian pilots in there? And they say it's part of a trade deal and everything else, isn't it? We all know what they say. God, don't get me wrong. But the truth is they're really hurting for instructors in the Air Force still. They got guys coming in the front end that was never going to be affected. Everyone wants to be a jet pilot, right? We totally understand that. Good on those boys and girls. I've helped them out a great deal on this channel. You know I have. But the guys that were there to teach them, the guys like me, were never going to stay under those conditions where they were jeopardizing sort of educational capability of instructors within the military by promoting people in there that were looking at diversity over merit. Hey, that's it, guys. Really appreciate your time. Tim Davies, have a look at that screen, by the way. And also, I did talk a little bit about the biases, didn't I, underground news. I use it a lot. So if you want to have a look at that, then obviously there was an advert in the middle of this, but I would use it up here. Let's put up here. Let's go over there. No, leave the flag, Davies. We're going to go this side. This is not easy. You run a YouTube channel. Tell me how to do it. I'm going to do, look at the sky. There's your thing. Click on that link. It will really help you with the arguments that you have with your family, because it really helps you look at your biases. Appreciate it, guys. Tim Davies, Fast Ship Performance.